welcome to the Dialed and Driven podcast. This whole thing was created by Jeff Lerg, Chris Palmer. Jeff Lerg, former national champion, former professional hockey player. My job, mental performance coach for hockey players throughout Europe, North America. This whole thing is about trying to tell the truth about what's possible in hockey. We've got, I don't know how many people across North America and Europe who have this big hockey dream. They want to get this great thing going. They start off with their kids super little, and they're trying as hard as they can to invest in their kids, give them a good life. And then you've got kids, young adults, full adults, working really, really hard. And what I see over and over again, what you've seen over and over again, is that people keep banging their heads on things they thought would be different. And things are different than what you think at every single level. So what we're going to be talking about every single week is to help people see the truth about what's going on in the world of hockey so that they can navigate this and go after their big dreams. And that brings up the title of today's thing, The Big Dream, Chasing the Big Dream in Hockey. And I'd love to talk to you, Jeff, and from your perspective, honestly, national champion, Michigan State, unbelievable, absolutely incredible. And on top of that, you're a guy who's been in hockey your whole life. It's so important to you. You've played at a professional level. You work with people at every single level in your coaching businesses. Tell us anything you think might be useful today so that parents, kids, young adults, guys who are at every single level, guys going to tier 2 to tier 1, guys going from juniors to hopefully get a shot at having a college gig, D1, all these different things. What do you think is the most impactful thing you can share with us today to really help people move forward in their big dream for hockey?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for the introduction. I've been doing this for a long time. I started coaching at 16 years old. I drove up to one of the local rinks after I got my license. My uncle was the coach, and he invited me out to say, hey, here's $30. Can you come work with the goalies? At the time, a midget level player in the Detroit market, competitive market. Ever since then, I've been a coach since 16. There was the unique situation. I played a long time, all the way up until about 33 at the minor pro level. And I loved coaching. I loved being a part of the game. I loved being involved. I kind of had a full calendar of hockey and goaltending operations. It was play for 8 to 9 months and then come back and coach for the 3 to 4 months in between. And that was kind of a cyclical process for me. So I've been exposed to a ton of different ideologies and types of coaches. And for me, I'm super excited just to be able to share that knowledge and that experience. It's been unique. I was unique because although I was successful at the collegiate level, as Chris mentioned, our team at Michigan State won the national championship when I was a sophomore. But I was successful enough to keep pursuing it, but I was not successful financially enough to play in the NHL and have the $1 million contract. So that forced me to then become a business owner and run this goalie school for 18 years and then play professionally. So it was a unique experience. I was a player and a coach for better parts of about a 12-year period. One of the most important things that I want to get across to all these athletes as they're working from a little tyke that just is driven to the rink or field of play by their parents into the next level of where they got to start making some decisions on how serious they want to become, and then what they have to do to pursue those dreams is the athletes have to come to a point in their life where they have to be committed to make the right choices, and that's really, as you grow up, you got to become comfortable with making the right choice. We'll get into detail on what those things are. I want to kind of detail the truth about chasing the NHL dream, and you can expand on that as you're a dad of 4 kids, and I think all of them played hockey. So you've been in that from a parental perspective. So as a coach, a mental performance coach, and you have NHLers call you on game day. They have to get the right mental state prior to their game, which is super unique. And so you can kind of share a little bit more on what that means, the truth about chasing the NHL or the hockey dream.
No, it sounds great. Yeah, and you're completely right. When you look at this whole big picture, you look at these guys who just put on skates for the first time, might be a pond skate, might be a learn to skate. And those early times are just so rewarding, right? This little kids with mom and dad, and everything's perfect. You fall, it's the cutest thing in the world. You make a mistake, it's the cutest thing in the world. After that, it's cookies, pizza, cake. Hey, let's go do something fun. And it's great. It's nothing but joy for everybody. And then you get to the point where you're actually pretty good at something. And you're like, well, hey, I can do this. And then you're on a league. And then after being in a league, maybe you're actually playing some travel. And then you're like, oh man, maybe I can go tier 2 to tier 1. And you have all these opportunities in front of you. But what happens at every single level, you have these things that become more and more difficult. There's more and more stress. You bang your head on more things. And I can tell you what's so cool about my job doing mental performance for hockey players throughout the world is that I can tell you whether it's a guy in Switzerland or Czech Republic, a guy who's playing pro or semi-pro, shoveling snow off the rooftops of a commercial building to pay for his hockey career in Sweden, or if it's a kid trying in Detroit or Minnesota to try to make things work, whatever it is, everybody bangs their head on the fact that at each level, just like you're talking about, there's this set of requirements that really aren't clearly talked about. And those clear requirements are clear in the results you get. You'll get benched. A coach will sit you, and you have to wonder why you're being sat. And the coach doesn't mean any harm. He can't talk to you about what's going on. He's got to be the air traffic controller on that damn bench because he's got to keep going. This is a nonstop game. So you sit there and you wonder if you're a piece of crap. You wonder if something's wrong with you. Maybe it comes to drafts. Maybe it comes to opportunities. Maybe you're in the AHL and you get a shot to play in the NHL and you're up there and then you get sent back down, but there's no real discussion about it. So to me, it's really telling that side of it. And the side is this thing is a business. Even at the lowest levels, it's a business. Imagine running machines that make ice 24 hours a day. It's expensive. This isn't that there's evil people involved. It's an expensive business. You got to pay for the ice. You got to pay for the coaches. You got to pay for the travel. So once you realize this is a business and you see it as a business, that makes such a giant difference. Because if you look at it as, oh, this is some kind, caring thing, some developmental, lovely thing, and people are always trying to do the best thing for you, yeah, these organizations want to do the best things for the individuals. When it comes down to it, they have to survive. And once you realize that, once you get a taste for that, then you can see all the opportunity. There's incredible opportunity in hockey. But person after person, I get calls every single week from people I don't know who've been referred by other people that tell me how hard it is for their kid because it was so good here and now they don't have that. Or, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to go to Pee Wee, Quebec. Or, oh my gosh, we can't have this thing. And I understand. And it's so easy to develop this feeling that somehow, oh man, I'm missing out, I'm screwing up. But the truth is, the only thing that matters, and this comes straight from Julien Brisebois, the GM at the Lightning, super nice guy. He's one of the smartest guys I know in the NHL. He said the two most important things are development and visibility. That's it. All the other stuff is noise. What team you're on, all these other things, development and visibility is everything. So story after story, you and I will be sharing more things about what's the truth about really being in this hockey world. So you have a chance to get what you want. You put all this time and money, you should get what you want. But tell me more about you, Jeff. You've been this guy who's worked with thousands of people in youth hockey. You've got people at every single level that you've talked to, worked with. You have friends who've been in pro. You've been in pro. Tell me anything. Tell the listeners anything at all that they can use that might be useful in helping them see the truth and maybe some really specific framework that you use to help people get everything they want in this sport.
Yeah, the best message I ever received was when I moved away for junior hockey at 17 years old. Prior to that, I played highly competitive youth hockey in Michigan, right? And we were chasing national championships at the highest levels. I played against Sidney Crosby. My final year, he was all that he was made up to be. They were the number 1 or 2 team in the country, and we were the other. He played at Shattuck St. Mary's. We beat him 6-4. And he had 4 assists, so he was awesome. So I came from a highly competitive level. I made that jump into the USHL. It was America's top junior league. I'm 5'5" on a good day. Grew up having severe asthma, so every day at recess, my mom would come, see me, pull me before I went outside, give me this nebulizer breathing machine for 10 minutes just to get enough juice in the tank to go run outside and play soccer with my classmates for 15 minutes. So I had this unique, I guess, history. I was short. I had some adversity to fight through medically. And then I came to this highly competitive level. of junior hockey, top level team in the USHL. I played for the Omaha Lancers. They had a long-standing history of being just season after season a top place team chasing championships. And I had this amazing coach, Mike Hastings. He's currently at University of Wisconsin, but he has over 800 wins probably in the USHL. He was there for a long time and stayed after me for a while. But the best message and the most clear reality that he said and probably yelled that really helped me get my head wrapped around what it really took to chase my dream of being an NCAA Division I athlete is he had us all in the room. He had the whole team, and he was kind of setting the tone for the start of the year. And he said, if you don't help me feed my family, you're not going to last. And he lived by those words. He had, at some point during the year, I don't remember the time frame, how far after, but there was a player. We had to be there every day at 2 p.m. His requirements were you had to either go to school. So if you were a senior in high school or in your gap years, you'd be going to community college classes. So you had to have one or the other. You had to go to school or you had to get a job. So this player was an older player, got there at 10 after 2. I think he was probably trying to go through every red light, just to scramble as mad as he could to get there on time because he knew there would be some reprimand for being late. There was. The next day, he got to the rink. His stuff was out of the stall. His name was off the locker room. He was traded. For me, I was a rookie coming in and seeing that, it was like, oh, wow, this is serious stuff, And he meant it. If you don't help me feed my family, you're not going to last. And for me as a goalie, I came in, of course, that kind of shocks you. But you also, at that point, I had developed this sort of internal confidence in myself. I'd overcome these hurdles with the short and the asthma, and I was playing in a high-level team, always chasing national championships as a Tier 1 AAA player. So I had this internal confidence built, So it wasn't like I was scared of that challenge, but it made me accept it. It made me accept that I have to be all in. I have to have virtually no life if I want to be here and be successful and then be able to achieve my dream. So I accepted it. It was hard. It was super hard. We had nights where we'd get back from a bus trip at 1 in the morning, 3-4 hour trip, and we would get our gym shoes on and go do stair sprints because we didn't play well in the third period. I don't know if some of that stuff will continue to take place, but that's the type of hard-nosed mentality that I was able to develop. And then once I accepted that, I was all in. I wasn't distracted, and it really helped me pursue and be successful for the many years beyond that.
That's awesome. Jeff, you started out as this guy who didn't have all the advantages of being 7'1", and you could have just let that defeat you. It's easy. Honestly, when things don't go well, especially when you're young, it's easy to fall apart. And I want to tell you that I had a similar thing, only I didn't go the way you went. The first 13 years of my life, I felt like I was a worthless piece of crap. Seriously, I wasn't a guy who was good at sports, and I wasn't a guy with a lot of confidence. And I met this great coach. Honestly, it's one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast. It's one of the reasons why I coach. This great coach named Brent Haley. He's a cross-country coach, one of the best guys. He's actually National Coach of the Year in Florida at the highest level. In the whole country, he was actually National Coach of the Year because year after year, he just churned out all these state champions. And I happened to wind up going to that school, Largo High School, just kind of random chance in the universe. And I meet this guy, and I ran because my brother ran, but I'd never run before, really. And he told me this thing. I remember his voice like, you can be something because you already are something. And I thought he was just lying because my experience is that people aren't very kind in the world, and I didn't really believe in myself. But the guy didn't lie. Over the course of those 4 years, I actually figured out how to fight for what I wanted, how to figure out what I wanted, how to work hard for something, how to work so hard that you puke your guts up on a Saturday morning running intervals and doing all this with people you care about. And there's something, it was like a magic trick. It was like the first time in my life I actually learned to believe in myself. But it goes back to this thing you talked about before with me so many times. And that's that you got to do things to build your belief in yourself. You've got to do things to show yourself you're capable. You have to do things to build your confidence. And if you're not, you won't have that. You just have less of a life. But this guy changed my life because he showed me when you want something to give everything you have, everything changes. And sure enough, I went from being this poor kid who literally had like a hose coming in my window for plumbing in my house. My mom and dad were awesome. I always felt loved, but we didn't have a lot of money. And I went from being this guy who didn't believe in himself to this guy who had college paid for, this guy who had made All-American. I was fourth in the country behind 3 Olympians, which was amazing. And I went on to be sponsored by Nike, even work for Nike, these great things. And I've got 4 kids who I love, and I get to coach people around the world at every level to help them believe in themselves and help them realize this great lesson I got from that coach all those years ago. You're not a worthless piece of crap. You have possibility in your life. And that's why I do this. That's why you do this. And it's just amazing to be doing this podcast. We have a chance to share this stuff with the world.
Yeah, like your experience as a youth into adulthood and mine obviously are completely on different worlds, and then the reality is people have to fight through their own battles at different parts of their athletics or life. So it's super intriguing to hear what you had growing up and to see how successful you are. Coincidentally, Chris and I live in the same neighborhood. We had no knowledge of each other 3-4 years ago. Before you know it, probably knew each other for 5-6 months at the time. At some point, I remember seeing your address somewhere on one of our sign-up forms or documents as part of the hockey club I run. And I was like, I wonder where that is. I wonder if he's close. And I looked it up and you're in my neighborhood, So then now, and we've had these worlds apart of life experience. We've come to get to know each other, and then we can see the conundrum of how parallel our professional paths are. From my youth growing up in the Metro Detroit area, you're from Florida, and I was a goaltender. You were a runner. I grew up in a family that was not like yours. I don't want to say spoiled, but there was an element of growing up with water and heat was the norm, and I had a good, loving environment all the way through. Of course, there's always adversity in life, and you've been able to carve out such a successful career and then now influence so many people around the world. You have people call you all the time from all over the world, different time zones all over. And sometimes my life's the same, specifically in the goaltending world, whether it's a Saturday afternoon or Monday morning, first thing after a weekend to play, whatever it is, I'm always getting the feedback from goalie parents or families or the goaltender themselves about X, Y, or Z, and this is good, this is bad. Hey, can you help me do this or that? So that's why having us together is just an awesome combination, and really looking forward to digging down deep to accomplish our main mission.
Think about hockey. Think about anything in life. The guys who are at the top, it's always a combination of talent plus busting your ass. And how much of that can you do? And it's funny because I remember Kobe Bryant, his whole thing about, age 10 and age 11. He was terrible at basketball. Literally, age 10 and 11, he played and he didn't have one basket. Not one. Kobe Bryant. And he got so sick of that. He's like, I don't want this anymore. And he got out and he busted his ass and he just did more workouts than anybody else. You've probably seen the video where he talks about doing a workout from 4 to 6, then coming back and having breakfast, another workout from 8 to 10, another workout from 11 to 1, and then the team practice, and then another one at night. He just outworked everybody. And by age 12, after having terrible age 10 and 11, by age 12, he outworked everybody and he was the best guy in his state by age 12. Huge transformation. But it's hard for people to comprehend that because when they start out in hockey, and I'm just telling you, it's every single person that I talk to who's having difficulty, which is the majority of people. Most people don't talk about it, but the people who just hit their head and can't take another moment. And this is at every level. It's NHL, AHL, D1 college, juniors across the country. Doesn't matter if it's in the BC, the AC, the OJ, the AJ, the OJ. Everybody has the same stuff. These guys are going through things where they think they're doing enough because they go to practice and they follow the lead of the coach and the team and they think it's enough. And it is technically enough. They're doing what the coach wants. But when it comes down to it, if you want to get to that highest level, if you want to be a guy who's this, a guy who overcomes 5'5", a guy who overcomes asthma, a guy who overcomes 2 years of being terrible at basketball and decides he wants to be better, a guy like Jordan Michael Jordan grew up with his brother telling him he's a piece of crap and you can't play basketball with me unless I can beat your ass every time you lose. And you're playing basketball, if your ass beat, your dad tells you should go in the kitchen with your mom. This is straight out of 30 and 30. These guys developed the drive when they just decided, I'm just going to do more than anybody else. And that work ethic's so hard to come up with. It's so hard to give everything to the sport. When you think about this hockey funnel, unlike almost every other sport, you've got these hundreds of thousands of people coming down in this little tiny funnel that ends up with about 450 D1 opportunities a year. That's about it. It's about 1,800-ish opportunities in D1. So maybe 450 a year. That's a lot of people to jam into this bottleneck. And unless you're the guy, given everything you have, given every stinking thing you have, puking your guts up, busting your ass, doing the extra things, doing stairs, eating right, getting sleep, finding some way to be this guy so exceptional, it's just going to be really hard for you to get to the top unless you're so freakishly talented. But even the most freakishly talented still have to bust their ass. So it's just a great lesson you're talking about. Is there anything else you'd want to tell listeners right now? Anything you think that might be valuable along this idea of moving along the hockey path to get everything you want in this big hockey dream?
Yeah, the other biggest learning point, and I think messaging from the same point in my life from that coaching staff, was if you really think that you're going to play at the next level, then you better be dominating your current level. You know, you can't just be swimming in the sea of normalness. You can't just be another player out there. If a scout or just a random hockey fan came into the rink, they should notably see that that player is dominant. It doesn't even belong at this level. You know, so that mentality of not just doing what your team has on their schedule, not just doing, okay, we have a practice and a team workout and then your day's over. That's what everyone's doing. So the mentality is, okay, I'm doing those as a bare minimum, and then what am I doing additionally? And that's truly how the long success comes, but also in order to get there, that internal confidence is built. Because it's all a game where your will has to overpower the skill level that you have. You have to be able to develop this will to succeed. And the best way that I've developed that personally was I developed this massive amount of internal confidence in myself. Because I knew at the end of the day, I always viewed my goaltending matchups as a one-on-one battle. So I always looked down at the other end of the ice. I knew the goaltender I'd be playing against. I always pre-scouted him. I knew where he played the year before. I knew what his stats were that year. I knew his previous 5 games. How did he do? Is he on a 5-0 winning streak? Well, if he is, he's playing pretty hot. And, you know, he's obviously due for a loss, but also got to respect his success. If he's on a 5-game losing streak, try to think, okay, he's probably really hungry to get back in the win column. So I played these kind of psychological games with myself to get myself amped up and prepared every game. The biggest thing was I wanted to be more confident than he was. So I knew I had to keep doing all the extra work. I would do the bare minimum with my team. I would go home and be stretching every night. Whatever level I was at, youth to juniors to college to pro, I would always do something one more rep than I knew or thought my opponents were doing. So that when I looked down to the other end of the ice, I knew internally that I'd done the extra work. I always had this as a one-on-one battle, even though goaltenders don't always operate that way, right? We're 200 feet away from each other during the course of the game, but I viewed it as one-on-one. For me, I wanted to be dominant every day in practice in order to build my confidence. I wanted to do one more rep in order to build my confidence. And I wanted to have this chip on my shoulder that if I'm at the junior level, that goalie down there, he's chasing a college scholarship that I want. You know, if I'm in college, that goalie down there, he's chasing a national championship that I want, or he's chasing a pro contract that I want. So I always found this way to work to dominate my current level, but then also I viewed it as, hey, it's not just everyone's best friends in the competitive landscape. Like they're trying to get something I want, you know, and I wanted to just have a dog-eat-dog world mentality where it was just like, I've done the work for it. I deserve to get that win. I've done the work for it. I deserve to get that scholarship. I've done the work for it. I deserve to get that pro contract or team championship, whatever it is.
You bring up this great point, and your belief in yourself, your confidence, it wasn't just something you faked into existence. There's this thing about positive affirmations, and I think it's bullshit. I think positive affirmations have a place, but they've got to be truthful positive affirmations. And if you have nothing to positively affirm, then you've got to do something. There has to be some kind of action that you show yourself you're capable of something. And whether you're talking about the stairs, or you're talking about doing the extra stuff, or every single night going back and making sure doing stuff other people aren't doing, that's what builds the confidence. There's actually a lot of evidence. A lot of things in psychology aren't really proven. There's evidence for things, but there's a lot of evidence that there's part of your brain in the front, and this part of your brain actually develops more and more the more you do hard things. And it makes sense, like all habits, right? If you become a guy who does 1,000 shots a day, those 1,000 shots, if you're being mindful about it and purposeful, you're going to get better and better. It's amazing how our brains really are this resilient, growing thing. And for you built these mental habits. You built belief in yourself because you did things other people weren't doing. That helped you know that you were different, you were special, you were more confident. And it's hard because if you look at people's lives, look at when you're starting little. When you're little, you're doing things that are fun. You're doing things with your family. You go out for pizza or ice cream after. Yay, it's fun. And then you go, I got my name on the back of my jersey. It's fun. But then that transition, little by little, creeps up on you, making it more serious. And as you do that, it's so hard to step up the way you stepped up and the way some of the best guys in the world step up, because life is fun. It's full of other things. It's full of going skiing. It's full of playing pickup basketball. It's full of goofing off with your friends. It's full of that phone scrolling and the joyful little bits of chemicals that are shot off in your body every time you see a reel of this or that. So I think one of the hardest things for people is, can you find a reason to do what you did? Can you find a reason to do what Kobe did? Can you find a reason to do what Jordan did? Can you find a reason to be Sidney Crosby, who'd be so pissed off when he'd make a mistake that he'd go back and recreate the scenario the next day on the ice and make sure he can do it 100 times? I mean, that's a hell of a lot of dedication. It would be a lot easier after a game to go out and have a couple beers and hang out with the boys and sleep in. What can you do to find the drive to really want this big dream enough that you can be the guy that every day is doing something special, every day is doing something that nobody else is doing? That's the magic trick. You just talked about it. Isn't this the truth with everybody at a high level that you work with? You've got friends and guys you've worked with in the NHL. Isn't everybody who's gone to high levels the guys who just gave more all the time? Isn't that it?
Yeah, and they're problem solvers. You know, you're going to run into a problem. Every time you step up to the next level, there's always this adaptation period. Of course, there's the minute 0.5% of the 1% that are just exceptional at every level. You have to learn how to adapt and be a problem solver. You know, you're going to run into issues along the way, and then you have to be dialed on where do I stand right now? When I'm going into this team or next level, am I the backup goalie coming in? You're always trying to prove yourself. And then you're always trying to find your way and keep proving yourself. You know, so you have to have this mentality where you're just like, every day is a tryout. Every day you have to go in there, give your absolute best and more, and keep building that confidence that you solve this problem today. Let's go through the routine. Let's do it again tomorrow. And then let's do it again the next day. And soon enough, it becomes this routine that you don't even think about. You're just used to running into some sort of new thing or new issue to work through, and then you go and do it. And then you feel really empowered when you do it. You know, you feel like, that's why for me, I just kept playing. You know, I played in the minors for 10 years. I wasn't making millions of dollars playing, but I just loved that feeling of going through this whole process of preparing and setting a goal and then working through, you know, the good parts and the bad parts and seeing a problem and then having that feeling of success. But it empowers you as an athlete and it gives you this internal confidence that you can do anything. That's probably the reason why I love running business, because I have this confidence in myself. Problems are going to occur and then I can find a way to solve them. You know, it just becomes this second nature aspect of life. And as you're growing up, you don't always have to solve those problems as a youth athlete. You know, you're just getting driven to the rink. You're showing up to what's on your calendar. You're going through what your coach is telling you. And then the reality hits of when that highly competitive business mentality of these organizations, if you don't solve those problems or abide by kind of the bare minimum of what it takes to be successful, then obviously you don't last. That's really the development and the importance of those teenage years. Just, you're not used to that. All the hockey you've had prior to that is not the same as what will take place for as long as you play, you know, from then on.
Yeah. You know, Brian Berkey, he's a coach at Victory Honda. He does a lot of stuff and he helps a lot of kids move on to juniors. One of the things he says, and it's so true, is that juniors is the start of what he calls musical chairs. And he says it's all musical chairs. Pick a chair. And it is. I mean, when you think about this, these are businesses, they're opportunities. Again, back to this idea that you've got all these kids, all these young adults fighting for these small number of spots. You got to get a stomach for the fact that you're going to bump your head. You're going to have problems. There's going to be problems. So everything you said just makes so much sense. And I guess just as a summary, as we wind down this episode, I'd just like to say that every person I've ever worked with, harmoniously with everything you're saying, everybody suffers because something ends up not being how they thought it should be. Just absorb that for a second. We suffer when we think that life should be different than the way it is. And what you're talking about is accepting things for exactly the way they are. And one of the reasons I have a business doing this is because I help people see how life actually is. People aren't evil. They're making a business. A pizza shop cannot sell pizzas unless they're selling them at a price to make a profit. Otherwise, they don't exist. And that's the only way this stuff can go. So all of this is this amazing opportunity, and I hope that parents, kids, young adults, guys who are going into the highest levels of hockey, even guys in the AHL struggling for a spot in the pros, or guys who are in the NHL right now trying to keep their spot. Look at Ovechkin. Ovechkin's 12% lifetime shot record, great shot record. He was 6% last year. What do you think he's thinking? It's got to be hard. So every person suffers, every person struggles, but our main struggles are not seeing that this is how life is. It's all adaptation. It's all sucking up the garbage and puking it out and dealing with it and saying, this is what it is. And I can, like you said, solve problems. I can bust my ass. I can do the extra work and go for things I actually care about. And let me say too, if your kid doesn't care about this, if you're a player listening to this and you don't care about this sport anymore, you're just burnt out, find another path. There's a million things to do with your life. It doesn't have to be hockey. But if this is what you want, then it's everything you have for everything you want. You embody that, the things you tell me about with the guys you work with, the guys I work with. The whole reason we created Dialed and Driven is to tell the truth about this so that people realize that if you had no two words in the world that mattered more, if you can figure out what you truly want in the center of who you are, hockey, not hockey, and you are dialed in and you're driven with every single thing you have, great things are going to happen. That's why we exist. Any last words from you, Jeff?
No, you hit the nail on the head. You have to accept your reality. There's always a hope when you wake up, or you might envision your day or your year or your hockey path going one way. The quicker you learn to accept that there's always going to be something new thrown at you, a new hurdle, a new reality, you have to accept it and then work to recalibrate and move on. Last little small stories, I always wanted to go to where my dad went to school. My dad played hockey at Ohio State. My uncle played at University of Michigan. So obviously a little rivalry there, but I grew up going to those venues and was always toured to go to those, I was in those locker rooms as a kid. I was watching those games. Always wanted to play college hockey. First day that a school could call me, Ohio State called me, so I got my hopes up to be just like my dad. Along the way, obviously, Michigan at the time was and still is a prominent program. And so, the other thing, well, maybe I'll be like my uncle. My cousin committed there. And at the end of the day, both of those schools just dropped me like a bad habit. And I saw Michigan State had a goalie opening, and I kind of studied what they had. I started to put that on my radar as like, I want to go there because I always liked them, but I was obviously influenced by my family. And once I accepted that this is where I wanted to go, that became the goal. And it helped me have clarity on what all my intentions were working toward. And I'm proud that that was the goal and I accomplished it. And we'll talk more on that. But that's just one small example of accept the reality, really accept what it is, and then work to move on. I think for now, as we're kind of just setting the foundation of what the reality is, we're going to work into specific topics and details, and of course have much more back and forth and storytelling from all of our experiences. That'll conclude our first episode. We hope that you got the most out of it. We do have our Instagram handle, Dialed and Driven Hockey Podcast. We also have our YouTube channel, our Dialed and Driven Hockey Podcast. So make sure to start your follows there, and we'll keep you updated with more episodes.